Alright, good evening. I'm a few days behind. My Genesis 6 video took a while to upload. It was my longest by far. As you can imagine, if you've read your Bible and you've studied your history and this stuff interests you, you know why Genesis 6 took a while. As I've always said, I introduce tons of theories, tons of different ideas from every different theologian that I look up. This is just simple man stuff, but it is in depth about each chapter of the Bible, and Genesis 6 is a heck of a chapter. So the hour and 6-minute video I did on Genesis 6 was not nearly in depth. If you can look into tons of other videos out there, but they will reference all kinds of readings from non-canonical books. Now, I reference non-canonical books and I say, well, there's more information about this in First Enoch or Book of Jasher or whatever. But I don't really read from them because I'm studying the Bible, okay? If you want to look into them, that's great. And Genesis 6 has a heck of a lot of stuff to look into. As I always say, though, the only linchpin in your life is Christ. Don't hang your faith on ideas and theories of the way the universe was created or how everything worked. I mean, I'm not going to get into detail again. I've already done it, walking through creation and everything, but I show you how no matter what, really it fits. Like the creation story fits with evolution. I don't believe in macroevolution, but even if it turned out to be true, they finally found the missing link in all this stuff, which modern science is actually disproving evolution. But it still fits with the way that it's written in Genesis 1 and Genesis 2 and so on. But that's in my past videos. And Genesis 6 has a lot to look up. But now we're into number 7. So, this is going to be my shortest. That 2 minutes right there I just did explaining my last video, that might be the bulk of it. So like Genesis 6 had like 6 pages of notes. Like every verse had notes for it. This one is pretty generic, mostly because most people know the story. It's the flood. So it's building up to the flood in Genesis 6. It was explaining why the earth needed to be destroyed, where everything that had the breath of life in it needed to be wiped off the face of the earth. And I introduced all the theories of what that meant, whether corrupting the flesh and the fall of the angels, or whether it just meant that we were becoming complete sinners, whether it meant both, whatever it may have been. But now we're actually at the flood. So it's Noah, his 3 sons, and all their wives. So let's start. I'm going to do King James, verse 1. And the Lord said unto Noah, Come thou and all thy... starting over. And the Lord said unto Noah, Come thou and all thy house into the ark, for thee have I seen righteous before me in this generation. It's not much. I just find it curious. So it says all the house. You know, it says in the Bible that Noah was 500 when he finally had his sons, and now they're all living to old ages, and we talk about that in the old other videos. But they still are having kids between like the ages of 70 and 190. You know, somewhere in there is where they're having the next patriarch of the family. Sorry, my dog sees lights outside. So Noah waits till he's 500. Now, this could have been because of all the crazy stuff that was going on with Enoch. This could have been because he was trying to be extra devout. Who knows? But that's a long time. And in this first verse it says, I seen righteous before me in this generation. So, and then before that says, Come thou and all thy house into the ark. So it must just mean his wives and his sons. Does he have more family? Is there any reference to that? I couldn't find any, but that's just curious to me the way it's written, all thy house. Must be just to include the wives. But to wait till he's 500 and how quickly the Tower of Babel happens afterwards, I'm just curious if no one has ever asked that question. You know, because every other generation that they talk about in the past, it just mentions the next patriarch. Now, Ham, Shem, and Japheth, Noah's 3 sons that they talk about and everyone assumes are the only ones on the ark, could have just been the next patriarchs, and he could have had more children. I doubt it. I highly doubt it. I think that it was just the 8 of them on the ark. The Noah's 3 sons and their wives. But it's funny. All thy house. He could have more kids. I mean, I don't think anyone's ever really asked that question in this story. And that's something to consider. We don't know. Anyone who says they know, unless it's Christ himself or the 2 witnesses when they come back in Revelations, I'm just not going to really, you don't know. So let's keep all ideas and all theories open. Moving on. Verse 2. Of every clean beast thou shalt take to thee by 7s, the male and his female, and of beasts that are not clean by 2, the male and his female. Of fowls also of the air by 7s, the male and the female, to keep seed alive upon the face of all the earth. I never knew. I've read the Bible before many times, and a lot of times I will skip over the stories that I've known my whole life, so I guess I haven't read the flood story a whole bunch consistently, because I'm like, yeah, I know the story, I understand it. But it's just funny to me, I never even realized that it's 7 of the clean. Obviously it's by male and female, but it's 7 couples, basically. Because the translation to Hebrew is 7-7, which when they say 7-7, that means 2 sets, basically. Interesting. I just never thought of that. I'm sure way smarter people already have. And the unclean beasts, obviously, they just bring 2. And he explains this, that he's just going to want to do it so that the seed stays alive, so that they can repopulate the earth. Verse number 4. For yet 7 days, and I will cause it to rain upon the earth. 40 days and 40 nights, and every living substance that I have made will I destroy from off the face of the earth. And Noah did according unto all the Lord commanded him. And Noah was 600 years when all the flood of waters was upon the earth. Okay. So right there, he's 600 years when all the flood of the waters is upon the earth. Now, again, I might have to look this up because it's really bothering me. Basically, yeah, it says right here at the end of verse 5, and Noah was 500 years old, and Noah begat Shem, Ham, and Japheth. Are they triplets? Are they did he have them all that year? Because they're very detailed about the years, all right? So it says Noah was 500 years old. Are Shem, Ham, and Japheth triplets? Like, how come it just says the 1 year? Does he have a bigger household? Are they the next 3 patriarchs? This is the first time they would name 3 patriarchs. So that's why everyone assumes they're the only sons. It's confusing. And right here, so he's 600 when the floods come. His kids already have wives. Now they'd be 100 unless they weren't triplets. And in that case, the youngest has to be like, at the oldest age, he's 97. So they have wives, which at that time, that's kind of young to have wives. Like, read through when they start having kids in the Old Testament. So, it's just funny to me. I still think that the more I think about that, it's possible that he might have more sons. If anyone attacks me for, like, not knowing the Bible and Christianity, I'm studying the Bible right now, okay? I'm reading the Bible, and I'm presenting a legitimate idea, okay? And which doesn't change the faith either way. Christ's message is still the same. It's just a curiosity, and it's a question. Asking questions about the Bible out of pure desire to know more about God is a wonderful, beautiful thing, okay? And having theories is a wonderful, beautiful thing. We just don't go against the message that Christ brought us, and I don't go against the message of the Bible. I don't think the message of the Bible is that Noah had only 3 sons, and if you think otherwise, you're crazy. It just seems like he might have more. And Noah went in, and his sons and his wife and his sons' wives with him, into the ark because of the waters of the flood. Right there it says his sons and his sons' wives. And they only talk about those 3, which I think are triplets, the way it's worded, the more I think about it. Moving on, verse 8. Of clean beasts and of beasts that are not clean, and of fowls, and of everything that creepeth upon the earth. There went into unto Noah into the ark, the male and the female, as God had commanded Noah. And it came to pass after 7 days that the waters of the flood were upon the earth. So they went into the ark 7 days before the waters came upon the ark. Why did they do that? That would annoy me. Like, think about how hard on Saturday it would have been to keep convincing one of your daughter-in-laws not to go outside, like, before the rain started. Like, your dad's crazy. He's crazy. No, I know, he's actually pretty legit. Like, we gotta trust him. He waited till he's 500 years to have kids. Like, he's weird, alright? I'm going outside. It's not even raining. No, we have to stay in here. Why? Once it starts raining, we just come in. This is what we were told to do. Okay, just do it. That would have been so hard. Alright, verse 11. In the 600th year of Noah's life, in the 2nd month, the 7th day of the month, the same day were all the fountains of the great deep broken upon, and the windows of the heaven were open. First of all, boom, like I said, they're very detailed. Now, I know the flood is a much more important date than the birth of his triplets, but just because they're getting down to the day. They wouldn't have done that for the birth of the kids, but if he was 500 when he had one, 501 when he had another, 515 when he had another, they would have said it. So I think they're triplets. The same day that this happened, when Noah was in his 2nd month of his 600th year, the 17th day of the month, the same day the fountains of the great deep broken up, and the windows of heaven were opened. Now, do you think they kept a journal? Like, that's down to the day. I bet Noah was a daily journal keeper. Something all of you should be. Write down the weather of that day. You know, just little things like this. It's good. It'll help you keep your memory. All right. Waters of the deep and windows of the heavens. Now, we talked in the past. Now, this is a real thing. In our atmosphere right now, there's a condensed layer of, like, I don't know what's the word for it. It is water. It's H2O, but it's basically just straight water. And it bounces off a bunch of radiation. Now, a bunch of theories are that this used to be much thicker, and that it changed our atmosphere, which allowed for larger animals and more plants, and blah, 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 blah. Now, I am of the opinion, and this is just mine, but I did come up with it my own and then found smarter people who had it. I didn't get it from them. That when this flood happened, and I came up with this in science class as like a 4th grader when I heard about, you know, we talked about not the Noah's flood, but how there's evidence of a huge flood and how scientists think that the animals were larger because of the different atmosphere and the different theories behind it. I read my weekly readers. Shout out to kids who went to school in the 90s and 2000s. And I just always thought this was is the same thing. This sheen probably got smaller, which is one of the theories for why animals don't get as large, because the atmosphere changed. And one of the theories is that this layer of our atmosphere, I can't think of the name, I should look it up, but you guys can. Maybe I will in my next one. But basically, it just got smaller. A bunch of it was released. Something happened in the atmosphere where the pressure couldn't keep it up there, or whatever. God, obviously, just let it fall down. So that would have released a bunch of waters, the windows of the heavens. But also, notice that it says the fountains of the great deep broken up. Geysers, the underwater wells, water pressure, something happened. You know, if you believe that there's the magma underneath the crust, then obviously something could happen where it boiled it all up. So all the underwater wells across the world, some sort of massive thing happened inside of our Earth's mantle that allowed for waters of the deep to come up, while at the same exact time this sheen is getting smaller, releasing them. And we know it's so evident from all ancient cultures, every one of them having a story about a great flood, from all the geological and archaeological evidence that we have of that there was a flood. There was a huge, massive, worldwide freaking flood. If you don't believe that, then you're not paying attention. It's so evident. It's not just because it's in the Bible. It's because it's evident. Okay, look into it. And this explains it. Now, obviously, I just went through and explained how science lines up with the Bible. And people will still doubt it and they'll say I'm twisting it my way. Maybe. Maybe it was all metaphysical. Maybe it was all scientifical. Either way, as South Park says it, God is still the why. Okay? Remember that. The how could be the mantle got all hot, geysers, blah, blah, blah. Something happened in the atmosphere. Maybe it was from the geysers. Who knows? Change the atmospheric pressure, allowing for this sheen part of it to drop off, which allowed for more radiation to come in, which is why we didn't live as long lives after the flood, which is talked about in Genesis 6. But boom, all this stuff happens. Now, what other than God, our creator, the ruler of the universe, could have made all those things happen at the same time? So even if you don't accept the total metaphysical, that it's just a miracle, but you accept that this science happened, if you understand science and the coincidence and what it would take for all those things to happen at the same time that would cause a flood across the world, you would drop your pants. I mean, I don't know. You would lose your mind unless you accepted that there is some sort of divine creator, somebody, something, God, in charge of that. Somebody did that. Something. It wasn't just chance that allowed for this radiation shield in our atmosphere to drop off a huge layer of it at the same, allowing tons of waters, the windows of heaven, at the same time that the mantle made that the underwater wells come up so water reaches from the surface and from above. That's God. Again, maybe it wasn't that way. Maybe the earth is flat and there is no mantle. You know, the only truth you need to have in your life is Christ. All this other stuff is side noise, and it's fun and it's interesting to talk about. But anyone who tells you that the Bible doesn't line up with science doesn't understand science, doesn't understand history, and has never read the Bible. Okay? Because it easily can. You're like, when you say can, you're like, oh, so you're making it fit. Well, that's what a universal truth is. Okay? A universal truth is something that's true no matter from what aspect you look at it. So from whatever planet, if aliens exist, and aliens from another planet came here and landed here, they would understand that if you have 2 apples, and you hand them 2 more, that's 4. Now they'd have different words or different, ways of communicating what 4 is, but it's still 4. It's universal truth. So when you can look at these things from different aspects, as long as you hold on to that universal truth, which is Christ. Christ is the Word. He is the truth. Okay? That's the only linchpin. The rest of this is just fun to talk about. Which is why I'm doing this. Man, that was a long time on verse 11. Let's move on. Don't worry, this will be fast. Yeah, windows of the heaven. It's so evident. Like this, there's a layer in the atmosphere. Science has made plenty of papers that they've written up talking about most likely the animals in the past were larger because of different atmospheric pressure. Many scientists believe it is because of our atmosphere, this layer that protects us from radiation, blah, 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 it got smaller, blah, 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 blah. Like, this isn't me saying this. There's a mantle, blah, 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 and it heats up the... Blah, blah, blah. Like, it's not hard to figure out. Verse 12. And the rain was upon the earth 40 days and 40 nights. In the selfsame day entered Noah, Shem, Ham, and Japheth, the sons of Noah, and Noah's wife, and the 3 wives of his sons, with them into the ark. Okay. So the day that it started raining, they all went onto the ark. You notice it's 40 days, 40 nights. Christ was tempted. Wait, how did that go? Never mind. I was way off. Because it's not 40 days, 30 days and 30 nights that Christ spends in the desert, isn't it? Or is it 40? Oh, man, I should have looked that up. I just thought of it now. But I almost like that because it sounds familiar. Now, I know there's a Josh Hartnett movie called 40 Days, 40 Nights, and I know it's about Lent, obviously, but now I can't remember how long Christ spent in the desert. That's going to bother me, but I don't want to look it up right now. I'll do it after this video. All right. So the whole family's on the ark, verse 14. They and every beast, so the family's on board, they and every beast after his kind, and all the cattle after their kind, and every creeping thing that creepeth upon the earth after his kind, and every fowl after his kind, and every bird of every sort after their kind. And it just says of every sort, it doesn't say after their kind on that. What is that? It's kind of weird. And every wing. So sort is translated to wing. So in every fowl after his kind, and every bird of every sort, which translates to wing. You always got to notice those things. When they keep ending a sentence the same way, then they change it, kind of like they did with Enoch and the generations. So that is interesting. I don't know what the heck that means, though. I didn't research enough for this one. I figured it was too generic. But you guys should look that up. If anyone ever watches these videos, and I'm going to look it up afterwards, but and every fowl after his kind, and every bird of every wing in Hebrew. Didn't end it the same way. But it's funny how they're bringing the creepy things. You know, everything that creepeth upon the earth. So all like the stuff that your girlfriend screams about and whatnot. All the creepy crawly things. All the snakes. That sort of stuff. It's interesting. Moving on. Verse 15. And they went in unto Noah into the ark, 2 and 2 of all flesh, wherein is the breath of life. So we talked about this in the last Genesis 6, and I'm going to just mention again, the breath of life. That's a very interesting thing, because the fish don't die in the Great Flood. All right, let's remember that. That's why we always talk about things from the age of the dinosaurs that live in the oceans. So stuff that has the breath of life is stuff that lives upon land. I'm not sure exactly what that means. I've always kind of wondered. I think it has something to do with... I'm not getting into it. I'll look it up more. And you can look at there's Genesis 6 where I talk about it, but the breath of life does not include fish. You know, and when you look at the diet that they're allowed to eat, there's a lot of interesting stuff to this. And I have my own theories on what the breath of life is. I really do. But I just haven't heard any compelling arguments out there. So if anyone ever watches this and comments on them ever, I would love for you to tell me what you think that means. Because I know humans have the spirit within us, but there's something different about fish now, isn't there? I'm focusing maybe on the wrong thing. I'm focusing on what's different about fish versus what all creatures on life have. Maybe it just means things that breathe oxygen. Maybe it's deeper. I'm just a simple man. Alright, verse 16. And they that went in male and female of all flesh, as God had commanded him. And the Lord shut him in. And the flood was 40 days upon the earth, and the waters increased, and bare up the ark. And it was lift up above the earth, and the waters prevailed, and were increased greatly upon the earth. And the ark went upon the face of the waters, and the waters prevailed exceedingly upon the earth, and all the high hills that were under the whole heaven were covered. It's pretty, I mean, I don't know what else to say. There's the waters went 40 days, and everything on earth was covered. 15 cubits. Now, I'm not sure if this is royal cubits. This is such a nerdy thing for me to know, but there's a difference between like a king's cubit and just a regular cubit. I know it's weird, so who knows really what it is, but I'm pretty sure one's like 3 and one's like 5. You guys can look it up. But I was trying to figure it out the other day if like this would come up to above the mountains, you know, raising the sea level by this much. And it just took way too long. And all my descriptions are a simple man's analysis, so I don't want to keep doing the math on it. But I was just curious. I'm like, okay, the height of the sea level now, and blah blah blah. But who knows what the world really looked like at the time before the flood? I mean, this could have been Pangea, and who knows what the sea level came down to afterwards? Maybe there's more land after the flood of Noah. You know, who knows how it worked out? But I just think it's interesting that there's different cubits for the royalty than for the regular people. Because I was looking that up, I'm like, what? Talk about elitism. Yeah, right here, verse 20. 15 cubits upward did the waters prevail, and the mountains were covered. Verse 21. And all flesh died that moved upon the earth, both of fowl and of cattle and of beast, and of every creeping thing that creepeth upon the earth, and every man. All in whose nostrils was the breath of life, which again translates in Hebrew to the breath of the spirit of life. So, the breath of the spirit of life. So that's different than the breath of life. Again, it could just be everything that breathes oxygen, obviously. That would make a lot of sense. It could have something to do with the breath of the spirit of life. So is that like how, we were given the breath of life by God or Christ, whichever way you want to look at the way that that's written. In here, this could be referring to the breath of the Holy Spirit, maybe? I don't know. You guys, please. You guys. I have no viewers. This is just for me. Alright, moving on. Yeah, all the breath of life, of all that was in the dry land died, and every living substance was destroyed which was upon the face of the ground, both man and cattle and the creeping things, and the fowl of the heaven, and they were destroyed from the earth. And Noah only remained alive, and they that were with him in the ark. And the waters prevailed upon the earth 150 days. So, they're on the ark. That's where the story's being left off. Now, I'm sorry if this wasn't very as well researched. I guess I just kind of, after Genesis 6 and the fact the video wasn't uploading, I just didn't do enough research on this. I still went for 27 minutes because I could talk about this stuff forever. But I really hope if anyone watches this that you tell me if there's ever been a theory out there that Ham, Shem, and Japheth are triplets, because I really think so. Did Noah ever have another son? I know tons of people are like, of course Noah had no other children. That doesn't totally make that clear. Alright, so I want to know if there's any theories on that. And the most important thing, the one that I actually really find some importance, is what does the breath of the spirit of life mean? And that's the Hebrew translation. So in King James Version, it says the breath of life. And that translates to Hebrew the breath of the spirit of life. Interesting. So 150 days they're on the ark. When we come back to Genesis 8, spoiler alert, they hit land. Alright, everyone, God bless. I hope that you're having a wonderful day. If anyone is ever viewing this.